The gates were already sliding shut when a voice reached him, soft, thin, almost swallowed by the sound of metal. "I'll clean anything for dinner." He froze with one foot still forward, hand halfway into his coat. For a second, he thought he imagined it. People shouted at him every day, begged, demanded, threatened. This voice did none of that. It didn't ask for money. It didn't argue. It didn't even expect an answer. It carried only one thing: hunger. He didn't turn around right away. He stood there, back straight, jaw tight, letting irritation rise the way it always did when his private world was interrupted. The estate was designed to keep voices like that out. Tall walls, cameras, guards, silence. He had paid millions for silence. And yet here it was, slipping to the closing gate. "Sir," one of the guards said, "already moving. We'll handle it." Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe, and share this channel to support our stories. The millionaire lifted his hand without looking back, not to stop him, just to pause him. Something about the way the words were spoken refused to let him walk away. Finally, slowly, he turned. Time did a strange thing then. It stretched. The driveway looked longer. The air felt heavier. At the far edge stood a black woman, no older than her mid-30s, though life had etched deeper lines into her face than years should allow. She hugged a small, worn cloth bag against her chest like it was the only thing holding her upright. Her jacket was too thin for the evening cold. Her shoes were dusty, the soles worn uneven, like she walked long distances every day without complaint. Her eyes stayed on the ground, not in shame, in restraint, as if she knew that looking up might cost her the little dignity she had left. The guard stepped forward, his voice sharp. "You can't be here. This is private property." The words landed hard. The woman flinched, shoulders tightening like she'd been slapped. "I'm sorry," she whispered quickly, the apology automatic practiced. "I didn't mean I'll leave. She stopped herself. She always did. People like her learn not to finish sentences, learn that explaining only made things worse. The millionaire watched him a few steps away, his face unreadable. This was his world. Clean stone, perfect lines, power that moved quietly. She didn't belong in this picture. She was a stain on the frame. Or at least, that's what logic told him. That's what he had always believed. "Please move along," the guard said, already annoyed. "Before we call someone." She nodded quickly, backing away. "Yes, of course. I'm sorry." Always sorry. As she turned, the strap of her bag slipped from her fingers. It fell open. A single plate slid out, chipped and cracked, wrapped in an old cloth. It hit the driveway and shattered. The sound cut through the air like a gunshot. Everyone froze. The woman gasped and dropped to her knees instantly, as if the ground had pulled her down. Her hands shook as she reached for the broken pieces, gathering them with desperate care, like they could still be saved. Her breath came fast now, not from fear of punishment, from the panic of loss. "I'm sorry," she said again, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. I'll clean it. I'll clean everything. I didn't mean to." No one had accused her of anything, and yet she was apologizing as if she committed a crime. The guard sighed, impatient. "Ma'am, step back. You're making a mess." A mess. The millionaire felt something tighten in his chest at that word. He didn't know why. He had seen worse scenes, louder scenes. This one was quiet, too quiet. The woman's fingers moved carefully over the sharp edges, blood beading where the porcelain cut into her skin. She didn't react to the pain. Pain was familiar. Hunger was louder. He took a step closer without realizing it. "Stop," he said suddenly. The guard paused, surprised. "Sir." "Give her a moment." The guard looked confused, but stepped back. The woman didn't look up. She kept gathering the pieces, hands trembling, tears dropping silently onto the stone. No sobbing, no drama, just tears that fell because they had nowhere else to go. The millionaire studied her face now, the curve of her cheek, the way her brow creased when she focused, the faint scar above her eyebrow, pale against dark skin. His breath caught. Recognition hit him like a punch to the ribs. Not a clear memory, A feeling, a shadow, a sense of something unfinished clawing its way back to the surface. He had seen that face before. Not here, not now, somewhere far away. Somewhere he had locked away and buried under years of success and excuses. A bus stop at night. Rain on concrete. A woman standing under flickering light, holding her coat closed with one hand. Eyes filled with hope she tried hard not to show. His heart started to beat faster. The woman finally gathered the last piece and pressed them together uselessly in her palm. She looked up then, just for a second, to ask permission to stand. Their eyes met. The world went silent. Her eyes widened, not with recognition but with confusion. She searched his face the way people search strangers for mercy. She didn't see him. Not yet. To her, he was just another rich man behind a gate. But to him, she was a ghost that refused to stay buried. He swallowed hard, his throat suddenly dry. Years collapsed into that moment. Choices, cowardice, a night he never spoke about, a phone number he never called, a promise he never kept. The guard cleared his throat. "Sir, should I?" "Wait," the millionaire said, his voice lower now. "Different. Just wait." The woman stood slowly, clutching the broken plate pieces to her chest like they still mattered. "I didn't come to cause trouble," she said quickly. "I'll go. I promise. I just thought maybe there was work. Anything." Her voice cracked on the last word. Work, not charity, not mercy. Work. The request landed heavy. It wasn't weakness. It was pride fighting to survive hunger. The millionaire stared at her, unable to look away. The gate stood half open behind him, frozen like the moment itself. Dinner plans, meetings, his schedule, none of it mattered now. Something old had reached out and grabbed him by the collar. Dinner was no longer a question. The question was how long the past would stay silent when it was standing right in front of you, whispering for a plate of food. And as he opened his mouth to speak, he realized this was only the beginning. He let her stay, but the way he said it made the truth clear. This wasn't kindness. It was control. "One room," he said, his voice flat, eyes already turning away. "If you're slow, you leave hungry." The words landed hard, like rules carved into stone. She nodded immediately, not trusting her voice. Gratitude flickered across her face for half a second before she buried it deep. Gratitude was dangerous. It made people think you owed them your dignity. She had learned that lesson long ago. She followed the guard inside, her footsteps quiet against the white marble floors. The house didn't feel like a home. It felt like a museum. Cold, perfect, untouched. Glass walls reflected her image back at her, thin and small, like she didn't quite exist. Every sound echoed. Every breath felt loud. Silence pressed down on her shoulders like weight. The staff noticed her right away. Eyes slid toward her and away again. Whispers followed her through the halls. Some curious, some amused, some sharp with judgment. A woman like her didn't belong here. Everyone knew that. She knew it too. Start with the guest room. A maid said, not bothering to hide her smirk. "And don't touch anything expensive." Everything was expensive. She nodded again and went to work. She always did. Quietly, carefully, like she was trying not to leave fingerprints on the world. She scrubbed the corners people ignored, behind doors, under tables, places where dust hid, because no one important ever looked there. Her hands moved fast but gentle, like she respected even the dirt. As she worked, she hummed softly, not because she was happy, because silence made the hunger louder. The tune was old, something her mother used to sing when there wasn't much to eat, but there was still hope. A maid passed by and laughed under her breath. "What is that accent?" she said to another. Sounded like she swallowed gravel. The woman heard it. Of course she did. She always heard it. She kept her head down and kept cleaning. Words couldn't hurt her the way hunger could. In the kitchen, her elbow brushed a glass by mistake. It tipped. Time slowed again. She reached out, but was too late. The glass shattered on the floor. Her body froze. For one sharp second, she was no longer in the mansion. She was back in a small apartment years ago, standing over broken dishes while someone shouted about carelessness, about cost, about how people like her ruined everything they touched. Her chest tightened. She waited for the anger, for the punishment. Nothing came, just stares. Staff stopped moving. Eyes locked on her like she was an exhibit, measuring, judging, deciding how much trouble she was worth. She knelt quickly and began to clean the mess with her bare hands, ignoring the cuts. "I'm sorry," she whispered, the words spilling out before she could stop them. "I'll clean it, I promise." No one responded. After a long moment, someone walked past her like she wasn't there. She exhaled slowly, relief mixed with something bitter. Being ignored was better than being punished, but not by much. From the upper floor, the millionaire watched. He told himself he was only checking the time, only passing by, only making sure the rules were followed. But his eyes followed her without permission. He noticed the way she moved through the space like she was afraid to disturb it, the way she straightened framed photos before dusting them, the way she aligned shoes by the door without being asked. He noticed the humming too. It annoyed him at first, then it stayed with him. As she moved down the hallway, she stopped in front of a photograph, a large one, framed in dark wood. It showed him years ago, younger, smiling in a way he no longer recognized. Beside him stood a woman, her arm linked through his, her smile soft, hopeful. The woman cleaning the house froze. Her hand trembled as she reached toward the frame, stopping inches away. Her breath caught. For a moment, she forgot where she was, forgot the rules, forgot herself. The image pulled something out of her chest she thought was gone. "Don't touch that." His voice cut through the hall like a blade. She jerked back instantly, hands snapping to her sides. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, eyes down. "Always sorry. I wasn't going to, I'm sorry." The word echoed in the space between them. It hit him harder than he expected. Why was she always apologizing? Why did it sound like fear instead of habit? He stared at her, trying to find the answer on her face, but she wouldn't look up. Her presence felt wrong. Not because she didn't belong, but because she did, and he didn't know why. "Just keep working," he said, more sharply than necessary. She nodded and moved on, shoulders tight. Dinner came faster than she expected. The smell reached her before the sound. Warm food, real food. Her stomach twisted painfully. She swallowed hard and kept cleaning. In the dining room, staff gathered around the long table. Plates filled, glasses poured, laughter low but relaxed. She stood near the doorway, waiting, not asking, not assuming, just waiting to be told when she was allowed. No one looked at her. Minutes passed. Her legs ached. Her hands burned from small cuts and harsh soap. Hunger clawed at her insides, loud now angry. She folded her hands together to keep them from shaking. The millionaire took his seat at the head of the table. He noticed her standing there. Of course he did. He told himself it was part of the test. He didn't know what he was testing, only that something inside him needed answers. "She'll eat after," someone said quietly. "After what?" He didn't ask. She waited until the plates were cleared, until the conversation died down, until the room emptied. Only then did she step forward. A single plate was set aside for her, smaller than the others. She sat where she was told. She didn't rush. She didn't complain. She ate slowly, carefully, like each bite was a promise she didn't want to break. The millionaire watched from across the room, pretending to read his phone. She never looked up, never asked for seconds, never asked for water, never asked for anything at all. The power imbalance hung thick in the air. This wasn't charity. It was a test, one she didn't know she was taking. And still, even with hunger written on her face, she asked for nothing more. That unsettled him more than any demand ever could, because dignity, he realized, was standing right in front of him, quiet, patient, unbowed, and he had no idea what was about to cost him. When she finally sat to eat, the light from the chandelier fell across her face without mercy. It didn't flatter. It revealed. And in that single, quiet second, something inside him cracked wide open. The scar above her brow caught the light first. Thin, pale, old, His breath stopped. His fork slipped from his fingers and hit the plate with sharp clink that sounded too loud in the room. No one spoke. No one moved. But he was no longer there. He was somewhere else entirely. Rain. Cold air. A bus stop glowing under a flickering streetlight. A woman standing alone. One hand on her stomach, the other wiping tears she refused to let fall in public. His jacket draped over her shoulders. His voice full of promises he wasn't ready to keep. The scar had been fresh then. A cut from a fall. Or a door. Or maybe from a night she didn't tell him about, because she didn't want to sound weak. He had told her he'd call. Told her everything would be fine. Told her to trust him. Then he left. The memory hit him so hard his chest tightened. Years of success. Years of silence. Years of pretending that night belonged to someone else. And now here she was, sitting at his table, eating slowly like she was afraid the food might disappear if she rushed. "Where are you from?" he asked suddenly. The question came out rough. Too sharp. She paused mid-bite, startled by his voice. She swallowed carefully before answering, eyes still down. "Here," she said softly. "But I wasn't always." Something in her tone made his stomach twist. Not bitterness. Not accusation. Just truth. Plain and heavy. He leaned forward without meaning to. Where before? She hesitated. Just a second. Long enough for him to see the wall go up. "Does it matter?" she asked quietly. "Yes," he said. Too fast. Too honest. The room felt smaller now. The air thicker. Staff hovered at the edges, pretending not to listen while listening to everything. Silverware rested untouched. No one dared interrupt. She named a city, then another. Each word pulled him deeper into memory. Streets he hadn't walked in years. Neighborhoods he had erased from his story because they didn't fit the ending he wanted. "How long ago?" he asked. She finally looked up, not at first with recognition, with confusion, with caution, like someone trying to understand why a stranger cared about details that didn't belong to him. But as she studied his face, her eyes narrowed slightly. She tilted her head, searching, the way people do when something feels familiar but dangerous. "Years," she said slowly. "A long time." He nodded, though his heart was racing now. Did you know someone there?" She stiffened. "Yes," she said. His hands trembled. He folded them together under the table. "Who?" Silence fell hard. It pressed against him, against the walls, against the past trying to breathe again. Staff stopped moving entirely now. Even the clocks seemed to hold their breath. She looked at him properly then. Really looked. Her gaze traveled across his face, taking the lines time and power had carved there. The confidence. The distance. The man who had become someone else. Her eyes widened. Not with hope, with realization. "You!" she whispered. The word barely made a sound, but it landed like thunder. "You don't remember me?" she said, her voice flat now. Not accusing, just stating a fact. His throat closed. He tried to speak. Failed. Tried again. You don't," she repeated. "You don't remember." The truth stood between them, undeniable and heavy. She hadn't come looking for him. She hadn't planned this moment. She hadn't walked up to his gate with revenge in her heart or demands on her lips. Fate had dragged her here, hungry and tired and proud enough to ask for work instead of pity. He pushed his chair back slowly and stood. The room seemed to tilt. All the wealth in the world couldn't stop the shame rising in his chest. All the power he held couldn't erase the image of her standing alone at that bus stop, trusting him when she shouldn't have. "I remember," he said quietly. Her laugh was short and humorless. "No," she said. "You remember a version. A moment. Not me." She placed her fork down carefully. Her hands were steady now, stronger than before. She stood, smoothing her jacket, the same thin one from the gate. The food on her plate remained almost untouched. "I didn't come for anything," she said. "I didn't even know it was you. I just wanted to eat." The words hurt more than any accusation could have. Because they were clean. Because they were true. He stepped toward her. "I didn't know," he said. "I swear, I didn't." She raised her hand, stopping him without touching him. "You didn't want to know," she said gently. "That's different." The staff shifted uncomfortably. No one knew where to look. This wasn't part of the house's routine. This wasn't something money could smooth over. She picked up her bag, lighter now without the broken plate. "Thank you for the food," she said. Polite, proper, dignified to the end. He watched her walk away, each step measure controlled. She wasn't running. She wasn't collapsing. She was leaving with the same quiet strength she had arrived with. And that's when it finally hit him. Power hadn't protected him from consequence. It had only delayed it. All the years he thought he had outrun that night. All the success he believed had rewritten his story. And yet here it was, standing in his dining room, reminding him that some debts wait patiently. As she reached the doorway, he called her name. She stopped, didn't turn around. The space between them hummed with everything unsaid. Regret, fear, the weight of a truth too big for one meal, one apology, one night. He didn't know what he would say next. And for the first time in a very long time, he understood that silence was no longer his ally. He stopped her just before she reached the door, not with a raised voice, not with command, with something she didn't expect at all. "Please," he said quietly. "Sit." The word hung in the air, fragile. It wasn't an order. It didn't carry power. It carried need. She stood still, her hand resting on the strap of her bag, unsure if this was another test, another condition wrapped in polite language. She didn't turn around right away. Years of survival had taught her that hope could be dangerous. "I won't take much," she said without looking at him. "I've already eaten enough." He swallowed. This isn't about the food. Slowly she turned. He gestured toward the table, then waved his hand once. The staff froze. "Clear it," he said. "All of it." They hesitated, confused. "And then leave," he added. "Every one of you." No one argued. Plates were removed. Chairs slid back. Footsteps faded down the hall. Doors closed softly. For the first time since the house was built, it felt human. Quiet, but not empty. He pulled out a chair for her himself. The movement looked unfamiliar on him, like a suit worn for the first time. She watched, guarded, then sat. He took the seat across from her, not at the head of the table. Across. Equal distance. Equal height. For a long moment, he said nothing. His hands rested on the table, open. His eyes stayed lowered. He didn't rush. He didn't perform. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady, but stripped of polish. "I left," he said, "because I was afraid. Afraid of responsibility. Afraid of who I would have to become." She listened without interruption. She had learned long ago that silence could be stronger than words. "I told myself stories," he continued, "that you'd be fine, that you didn't need me, that time would take care of what I wouldn't face." He shook his head slowly. "I was wrong." He looked up then, and she saw something she hadn't seen before. Not guilt, shame, honest and heavy. "I'm sorry," he said. Not once. Not rushed. "I'm sorry for leaving. I'm sorry for choosing comfort over you. I'm sorry for turning years into silence." Her breath caught. She stared at the table, at the smooth wood beneath her fingers. She had imagined this moment before, in anger, in dreams, in quiet nights when hunger felt like punishment. But nothing had prepared her for this version of him. Smaller, bare, listening. Fresh food was placed in front of her. Simple, warm. He waited until she took the first bite. Tears fell into her plate almost immediately. She tried to stop them, embarrassed, but they came anyway. Not from hunger, from release, from the weight she had carried alone, finally being acknowledged. She ate slowly, shoulders shaking, each bite grounding her in the present. He didn't speak. He didn't interrupt. He let her cry without turning away. For the first time in years, she felt seen. Not pitted, not judged. Seen. They talked long into the night. Not about money. Not about fixing everything at once. About what had been. About what couldn't be undone. He listened more than he spoke. When she told him how she had survived, he didn't look for excuses. When she spoke about the night she went to bed hungry, he didn't look away. Morning came quietly. With it came lawyers, papers, plans, support that arrived without conditions. A future laid out carefully, respectfully, but none of it was placed in front of her, like a gift to be accepted. He explained everything, asked questions, waited for her answers. "You don't owe me forgiveness," he said, "or gratitude." She studied him. The house felt different now, not warmer, just honest. "I know," she replied. She didn't forgive him that day. She didn't promise anything. She didn't have to. Healing wasn't something he could buy. Redemption wasn't something he could sign. What mattered was what came before the paperwork. Respect. He spoke to her like her voice mattered. He asked what she wanted. He accepted when she didn't know yet. When it was time for her to leave, she packed slowly. Not because she was unsure, but because leaving something familiar, even when it holds pain, still takes courage. He stood by the door, hands clasped, unsure what to say. "Thank you for the meal," she said, meeting his eyes. "No," he replied softly. "Thank you for giving me the chance to face myself." She stepped outside into the morning light. The gate opened wide this time. No guards rushing. No whispers. She walked out full for the first time in years. Not just of food, of truth. He remained standing there long after she was gone. The silence returned, but it felt different now. It wasn't something he controlled. It was something that taught him. That power without accountability is empty. That dignity doesn't disappear just because it's ignored. And that sometimes the smallest request, just a plate of food, can uncover a lifetime of truth waiting to be faced. Because in the end, a meal shared with honesty is worth more than gold. And respect, once restored, changes both the one who gives it and the one who finally receives it.